Jim Trotter, NFL Media Group, longtime Sports Illustrated and ESPN reporter here on the Rich Eisen Show. What constitutes disrespect, Jim?
That's a You know what, Rich? To be as frank as I can be about it, it sounds like it's the same thing as defining what pornography is. It's in the eye of the beholder. Commissioner Goodell said at his press conference, our fans know it when they see it. Well, everyone has a different interpretation of that. Some people find it offensive when players kneel. Some don't. So, again, it depends. It's in the eye of the beholder. Now, what the league will do, I assume, based on conversations I have had, is that they will put in writing what they expect of their players when they are on the sideline. So, for instance, does that mean as what was currently in the game operations manual, where you're supposed to stand with your helmet, I believe, in your left hand and your hand over your heart? Is that going to be formal now? That's what every player must do? We don't know at this point, so the league still has to determine that. But I think for clarity's sake, it would behoove the league to come out with something that definitively says what is expected of a player on a sideline. Let me give you, for instance.
Sure.
So if a player were to kneel during the anthem in prayer, not in protest, but in prayer, is that acceptable? The likely answer is no. If a player who is of Muslim faith were to stand during the anthem with his hands in front of his face, he's standing during the anthem, but his hands are in front of his face, is that okay? Well, you may say yes. So then the question becomes, are you discriminating against one faith as opposed to another? It's a question that you have to think about for down the road. Another thing, is it okay to raise a fist during the anthem? We have not gotten a definitive answer on that yet, whether or not it's okay to raise it during the entire anthem or at the end. There are still things that have to be worked out here. So that was the danger of having a word like disrespect in there, because that means different things to different people.
So not only do we not know what disrespect is or what the fine schedule would be, but there's a possibility here that a player could wind up being fined heavily by a team owner that interprets disrespect one way, and another team owner might just say to the NFL, fine me, I don't care. My players want to do it, and I stand behind them. That's all still possible in the NFL this fall.
Yeah, it's absolutely possible. It's left up to the teams now to decide whether or not they will fine players if they demonstrate.
But if the league fines the team, though, Jim, isn't that technically fining the players by saying that they're not taking money out of the player's pocket? But what they are saying is that they still disagree with it, and that might create an issue between the players and the league, despite what you say the intent is to have the relationship grow.
No, in a literal sense, what you're saying is absolutely right. The league is not taking money out of the player's pocket, which is, as you know, very important to a player.
Sure.
But it is taking it out of the team's pocket if it chooses to fine them. That's the other thing. It says they can fine a team. Will they fine a team? We won't know until we get to that situation. So there's still, there's a lot of gray here, but the owners felt that they had to do something. And as I understand it, when they broke yesterday, there were a group of roughly 9 to 10 owners who felt that they wanted to keep the status quo, in part because they felt that they had gone through the roughest part of this, that they're doing work with their players in terms of this social justice initiative and the things that they are doing off the field as well to confront these issues that are important to the players. And so they felt, why do we want to now reignite this when we're only talking about a handful of players who are actually demonstrating? But the other thing is there was another group of owners, as I was told, a handful or so, who were more adamant that they wanted a strong policy in place and they wanted the teams to have control over that. And then the rest of the owners, I was told, wanted some sort of change but didn't quite know what. And so when you look at the sheer numbers, what it was saying is that you had roughly 22 or so owners, and again, I'm using rough numbers, but you had roughly 22 owners who were saying we want some sort of change. And so then it became, for that to happen, the league had to figure out a way, what could we come up with that would be palatable to the owners who were saying no change, that I don't want to have to go back to my players who I have told that I support you in what you're doing, but now we're changing this, and we're going to discipline you if you demonstrate. And so there was this sort of compromise, if you will, that they would do it this way, and that sort of got everybody over to the same page. Now, Jed York of the 49ers did abstain, and he said in part it was because he felt the players should have been more involved in this process, that they should have been part of the discussion, and that he believes that they were doing good work and are doing good work, and that they were moving forward, and he's all about progress, and not necessarily punishment. So he abstained from the vote. But other than him, Jerry Jones and others were all saying that the owners all got on the same page, and now there appears to be some clarity and some consensus.
It's interesting, Jim, because Jed York also said that he texted Richard Sherman from inside the meeting to give him a heads up as to what was coming down the pike, and that's exactly I guess this brings it all full circle in a way, Jim, is that each individual team has its own market and its own fan base that has a toleration level, for the lack of a better phrase, or an intoleration level, for the lack of a better phrase, for this very subject. And in terms of wanting to win football games, the most, if you will, woke team in the NFL won it all last year. And if this helps you win football games by letting the players speak their minds in any way, shape, or form, then a team's going to go ahead and do that, and the other teams might not.
The Rich Eisen Show, weekdays at noon Eastern on Audience.